Good people. You know, I love seeing firsthand all the innovation that happens in the case space and certain things that come and go, certain things that stay and improve with the next generation of the model or the enclosure. And so we want to make this video about all the case features we need to see more often and get improved with the next generation, because I've seen plenty of awesome things that I absolutely love and I want to see more of. So let's be positive and hope to see the change in 2025 and beyond. Like, can we please have more variation when it comes to color, texture, and also the materials? The wood, it's still in kind of its own category that's still growing. Everybody's kind of doing it, but you know, there's some cheap ways and there's some expensive ways to do wood. Glass is kind of lost in the background unless it's curved, but I do appreciate when we do have funky color options like with the TR100 from Thermaltake, and actually Thermaltake has been leading when it comes to color variations with really cool yellows, hydrangea blues, matcha greens, and they don't always work out, but when they do, it's just such a breath of fresh air. I also want to compliment Thermaltake on their experimentation with color contrast between exterior panels and interior frame color that always seem to complement each other very well. It's not just a complete sea of color or just completely white interior and exterior. There's always a little bit of something to play with. Like Montec is introducing a little bit of that silver accent on the exterior that matches the power button and the reset switch as well. But on the interior, it's just a sea of white. So it would be nice to have a little bit more color contrast between exterior and interior. I want to compliment Corsair on introducing really cool metal texture to their cases, especially in the front panel. Like, you would see this and you would recognize this as a Corsair enclosure just from looking at the front panel, which is quite important for brand identity, even though there's still plenty of issues with Corsair, but I would love to see more like it, please. And despite how thin and bendy the entire frame feels like, this is surprisingly strong for something that is really, really porous. At least I wish the rest of the frame 4000 was this thickness, because right now it's an embarrassment. Phanteks has been doing this actually for a while, having consistent ventilation pattern on the exterior panels and on the frame level, and this like rectangular ventilation mesh is good for airflow and for visuals too. More like it, please. I do appreciate what Montec is trying to do as well with their ventilation pattern that somewhat resembles their logo, but I want to compliment them on their Heritage Edition introducing leather into the enclosure. It's not real leather, but it's also something very different. I would say it looks better on the black model because the texture of the leather almost looks like wood from the distance, but when you come up close, it does look quite different and very leather-like. In a world dominated by the dual chamber enclosure, believe it or not, I think we might need wider enclosures. And I'm not advocating bigger enclosures. I'm advocating for proper optimization of the interior to fit larger graphics cards. I'll let Mike handle that one.
A lot of graphics cards these days are going with like the bigger is better approach, and that means the width of these cards has ballooned in size to extreme extents. So let me explain this to you by using the 011 Dynamic Evo, one of the most legendary cases around. So what we have here is I believe it's a 5090 Tough, or it might be a 5080 Tough, and you can actually see how far out this card is built. On the 011 Dynamic Evo, basically, you try to close the case window and it will put pressure on this connector, and this 12-pin high-power connector is the last thing you want any pressure on. Basically, you want a very, very gradual curve here. Now, yes, you could be using one of these things, but would you trust your $1,000 plus $2,000, $3,000 graphics card to a $20 adapter that allows you to pull a 180-degree curve to this connector? Absolutely not. But then again, look, the 011 Dynamic Evo is a very, very wide case, right? It's one of those dual chambers. On the other hand, a lot of other manufacturers, like Corsair with the Frame 4000D, they've already built the equation of these massive, massive graphics cards into their design. So let's pull in a little bit closer to this one. This is the same sort of effect. You've got a massive graphics card here and a lot more graceful curve to that 12-pin high-power connector, simply because of the fact while the 011 Dynamic Evo only allows for about 6 3/4 inches between the motherboard tray and where the glass panel is, this one is an inch wider, even though the case itself is narrower. So you can basically close that window without any problem whatsoever here. And look, this is the last thing you want any pressure on, guys, right? So There needs to be a little bit more transparency with these cases when it comes to the distance between the motherboard tray and that glass side panel. If there isn't, you could be coming into an issue where you get a very expensive case, a very expensive graphics card, and suddenly it's not really compatible, or you might have an installation issue that will cause problems over time. The other thing that we've encountered actually is because of the width of these graphics cards, if you try to mount them vertically in some cases, in some situations, the 011 Dynamic Evo is one of those, even if you're running an AIO, that graphics card is going to smash right into the pump head. So anyways, a bunch of issues here, but there are ways around it, and some manufacturers have started to do exactly that. Anyways, back to you, Dimitri.
Which leads us into the conversation about needing proper GPU specifications and compatibility, not just for ITX cases, but for now mid-towers, full towers, dual chambers, and everything else in between. I mean, most cases now display GPU length compatibility, but with 5000 series custom cards getting so ginormous and stupidly big, it'd be great to know it can fit inside your case and close properly with the side panel without you needing to worry about bending that 12-volt high power cable into oblivion. And for cases that don't display the height compatibility for GPU, it can be roughly extracted if you look at the CPU tower height compatibility, and that's kind of roughly where you will meet the side glass, and so kind of go from there, you know, maybe minus 2 centimeters to make sure that your cable can bend properly. My follow-up point to that is that we need more accurate specifications for the USB-C port on the front I/O. Some companies don't even display the speed. They just say it's Type-C. Good luck to you, figure out what the speed is through trial and error, but no. Phanteks displays full specifications on their Type-C port for the front I/O, you know, USB 3.2, Gen 2, for example, or Gen 1, so you know if it's 5 or 10 gigabits per second. I love that Corsair also displays full USB 3.2 Gen 2 speeds. I'm surprised Lian Li is lagging behind in displaying proper speeds, but the fact that they are not saying that it's Gen 2, you can stay on the side of caution and assume it's the slower one. I am loving all the interior modifications that we're seeing on the mid-towers, especially with the Lenco 207 kind of leading the pack because it's 20% smaller, but they're redefining this whole ATX layout on the interior by moving the power supply to the front, clearing up room for fans that actually intake air for the GPU area, and all that while being significantly smaller than your traditional mid-tower is exactly the way forward. More of that, please. I also would love for the chimney style enclosure to come back in style, just because I'm working with a sub shuttle enclosure right now and I actually quite like it a lot. It gives the GPU on display, but also has really good airflow delivery from the bottom, and you can do quite a lot with it while also being slightly smaller than your normal mid-tower. I do like the integrated fan shroud on the G400A that not only looks good but has functionality by reducing turbulence and improving airflow, although you are stuck by using whatever fan size they are designed for, so it's kind of a double-edged sword, but most of the time you are sticking with the default case fans anyway, if they're decent quality. I love the captive thumb screws on the Frame 4000D that make installation of the power supply slightly easier. It's the quality of life improvements that just kind of make sense. Plus, I actually really like the Infinity Rail system Corsair is implementing, allowing you to expand one side of the fan bracket to support larger fans or smaller fans without introducing more restriction to the fan itself with the metal frame. This one might be a little controversial, but I prefer for some cases for the fans to come not installed on the frame, but are like part of the accessory kit instead. This would allow you to install them yourself, plus route them yourself, because doing your own cable management is often way better than whatever comes stock on the enclosure. But also more and more time, I'm seeing cases arrive damaged to me through shipping, like the Lenco 207. The fan blades on the white model came completely disattached from the fan frame, and that's because the accessory box came in loose while in shipping and was bouncing all over the interior, causing some damage to the fans. And so having those fans not installed on the frame, but like say are in the box for the accessories would avoid this issue. GPU support brackets are becoming more common, and thank God, because graphics cards are getting so big, we need that additional support for the booty. For the booty? For the back end? For the rear? The latest Corsair cases have a built-in GPU support bracket with 2 positions, which is awesome for slightly shorter graphics cards if you need it. Landcool 207, for example, comes with 3 positions for the GPU support. That gives you a little bit of flexibility, again, for what length of the graphics card you're trying to support. My experience with the TR100 from Thermaltake is actually pretty awesome because they include a GPU clamp system instead, allowing you to secure, again, the back end of the graphics card so it doesn't just flay around and only be supported by whatever you are installing by the PCIe area. Phanteks used to include a GPU support bracket by the PCIe area, but not anymore, and I really hope they return to that or go the traditional route of having some sort of height adjustable thing that can be installed inside the frame. And can we please get back to having an option to properly secure the side panel? Most of the time now, the ease of use aspect is taking a bit too far by having just clip-in system without any thumb screws, and getting access to the interior is very easy in most modern mid-towers, but having no option to actually secure it in case something gets bent on the metal side, especially with my experience with both Phanteks and Corsair enclosures lately, the side panels is absolutely horrible, especially when it comes to cable management, and if you have a little bit of a bulge sticking out, like, good luck closing that panel. This next one might sound a little bit controversial, but can we please have more open style enclosures like the Streacom DB6 XL? There's also the non-XL version, which is a little bit smaller, because the whole idea of showcasing your components is quite popular, right? That's why we have glass on the side of the enclosures. You can see your pretty graphics card, your really cool AIO. And I would love to have more open style enclosures that cater to the showcase element, but still also being somewhat functional. And the problem right now with open style enclosures is the price, or like the entry, because they're way more expensive than standard mid towers. And so that niche I hope to grow so that we have more options that are slightly more affordable. And we saw at Computex, like, what, 2 years ago, Montech was showcasing a bunch of awesome open style enclosures that were catering to exactly that demographic, that were somewhat affordable and, a really good entry into the open style market. And I just hope to see more of that, please. I am curious though if people agree, or am I just going crazy? And all of this really boils down to community feedback. Us reviewers, we work with stuff, and yes, we have a voice, but the bigger voice is actually you guys. And it's so cool to see certain comments get upvoted, and then maybe those features get actually thought about and implemented in the future. So definitely think about that. I'm Dmitry. Share your thoughts down below. I'll talk to you in the next video.